Islam is America's last hope.
What happens when Muslims take over an American city?
Everywhere where these radical Islamists have touched, what you get is chaos. You get violence. You get the subjugation of women.
So you don't think there's any issue in getting a 7-year-old to wear that kind of dress?
I don't think it's really a bad thing.
If you give full license to activist Muslims in America, these are the types of things that they're going to bring to America.
We visited America's only Muslim-dominated city to find out what has changed.
She had a store and there was a goat carcass one time in her dumpster.
Muslim parents don't want art and music for their children. That's discrimination.
How mosques are converting the local population.
Many African-American Muslims regard Detroit as the Mecca of our Islam.
How liberals are reacting to the Muslim government.
I've been told by many people that they don't feel safe here anymore.
They were, flying Hamas flags, and we were like, okay.
You had people shouting, "Death to America." What do you think about that chant?
I think it's awesome.
How the Muslim vote could impact the presidential election.
The supporters of the Palestinian cause cannot choose who the next president will be, but they can oust the current president.
And we confronted imams over their past radical comments.
But the Iranian regime locks up political prisoners, it tortures people, and you've supported these people.
There is so much also misunderstanding about Iran.
Was that all lies?
My name is Stephen Edgington and I'm the US correspondent for GB News. Since Hamas's massacre of Jews on the 7th of October, the Muslim population in America has reacted with fury.
Well, they were killed by Hamas.
That's what's alleged.
In April, a pro-Palestine protest in Dearborn, Michigan went viral around the world after several Muslims were heard chanting. I went to Dearborn to speak with local Muslim leaders to understand their reaction to the war in Gaza.
Hello, Stephen. It's nice to meet you.
Just down the road here in Dearborn a few weeks ago, there was a protest, a rally to do with Gaza and Israel, and people were chanting "Death to America." Some people were, not everyone, but some people were.
There was one individual that said it.
There was at least one. I think there were several. But what do you make of that chant, and do you support its message?
No. So listen, I was born and raised in America. Born and raised in New Jersey. I was born and raised on Dunkin' Donuts and Domino's Pizza, all the good stuff, okay? And the reality is that I learned my religion in America. I would even go as far to say that the opportunities to learn Islam exist in ways here in America that it does not exist overseas. My real message is that Islam is America's last hope, okay? Many of the thought leaders like Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali in the civil rights movement, what inspired them to move was Islam. The philosophy of Islam is a philosophy that breathes life into the people, and it does not wish death upon the people.
What do you think of Joe Biden? What do you think of Donald Trump? Who do you want to win the election this year?
I don't care anymore. I voted for Joe Biden. I have a relative that was murdered in the West Bank. 37 years old, leaves 8 children behind, okay? If I were to sign the ballot to put Biden into power, the ink that I would use to sign that ballot would be through the blood of Randa Ajaj, my relative. And I will not accept that for myself. And my goal with my vote is to tie the crime to the criminal. Joe Biden is a criminal, and I don't care who wins. Even if Trump wins, I don't care. Let him win. I want Joe Biden to know when he suffers on that night, knowing that he lost the election like the loser that he is, like the bloodthirsty, maniacal murderer that he is. People are limiting it by saying, what will you do come November? What happened in this genocide against Palestinians is going to be the center focus of our political engagement for the rest of our lives. We will never forget it. And we will make sure anybody who did not sign on to ceasefire resolutions will pay the price with this.
What do you mean by that?
They will lose their power. We will get them out of office.
The toughest moment in the life of the Prophet ﷺ was after Am al-Huzn.
Again, as I told you, this is
We claim that this is the largest Islamic center in the state of Michigan. See, the International Islamic Academy, they moved to a whole building, a whole school.
So do you get many African Americans, many locals converting to Islam?
Yeah, I would say the vast majority, for whatever reasons, are African American, yeah.
There have been many protests here in Dearborn and in Hamtramck to do with the war in Gaza. What was your reaction on October 7th to what happened?
Well, it is an extended, it didn't start in October 7th. It started in May 1948 or even 1947.
After October 7th, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, the Democratic Congresswoman, they condemned the attacks on the Jews.
Okay.
And you wrote, "Bad luck, the Zionists bought it. Welcome to the sellouts club. How about Israel's 75-year-old brutal occupation of Palestine?" So, do you think that's denying what happened on that day? That sort of mass. You've condemned the massacre.
I don't think they're denying it. It just.
But you're denying it, are you not?
Denying what?
The massacre, because they were condemning the massacre, and you wrote back that they're Zionist sellouts.
Yeah, the Zionist sellouts, but see again, you cannot. There's no justification for ending a life of any human beings.
I just want to understand what you meant, because Ilhan Omar condemned those attacks on October 7th, and you called her a Zionist sellout. You're literally replying to that tweet.
Who's Zionist sellout?
Ilhan Omar for condemning the attack. That was something you wrote on Twitter. Do you see what I mean?
No, I didn't say that.
I'll just show you quickly.
Yeah.
So,
I remember.
Ilhan Omar says, "I condemn the horrific attacks we're seeing on this was on October 7th, and you wrote, 'Welcome to the sellouts club. How about the Israel brutal occupation of Palestine?'"
Yeah. I corrected that, but not in writing. I remember that. Actually, I should have.
So you were wrong to write that?
Yeah. I did.
I'm the founding Imam of Islamic House of Wisdom, so we established House of Wisdom in 1995.
One of the recent controversies around Dearborn was this rally just 10 minutes away, where a couple of people were chanting "Death to America." What do you make of that chant?
We want to bless America, to keep America beautiful, keep America great, in the values and integrity, to put America and American Constitution first.
You say you support American values, yet at the same time you have also supported some Iranian presidents. You've said on your website you admire the ethical character and moral values of one of the previous Iranian presidents. You also talk about, on your Facebook page, praising the former Ayatollah of Iran as a great hero, a shining star in the sky of wisdom. And you've also, again, praised other Iranian Ayatollahs on your website and in sermons here, according to your website. So how do you square that contradiction? You support American values of freedom, yet at the same time, you're supporting those Iranian leaders and presidents.
So much of things, though, we hear about Iran, as we have Islamophobia, unfortunately, there is Iranophobia as well. There is Shia-phobia as well. So a lot of this stuff that we hear about Iran, that's not true either.
But the Iranian regime locks up political prisoners, it tortures people, it lashes women for not wearing the right headscarf, and it funds billions of dollars to Hezbollah and terrorist regimes. And you've supported these people, you've openly made these comments that I suggested.
I'm saying that there is so much also misunderstanding about Iran.
Was that all lies?
There are lots of lies all over.
But you've said that you've been friends with the past 3 Iranian presidents for the last 37 years. It says here you were friends with one of the Ayatollahs. And again, this Ayatollah is responsible for funding terror, arresting thousands of political dissidents, and allowing physical and psychological torture of prisoners.
No, and like Mr. Khatami, Mr. Khatami, that's the president I support, that he is the one who initiated the dialogue of civilizations in United Nations. Mr. Rouhani, Dr. Rouhani, the same thing. Yeah, Rouhani, the same thing.
But he's the same man who's been funding billions of dollars to Hezbollah.
No, you see...
Is that not true?
You see, he's a president, he's been president. I mean, the Hezbollah and Iran, that is something that is not this president or that president. Now you are talking about Hezbollah, so, then we are talking about Israel. Hezbollah never attacked Israel and occupying the Israelis Hezbollah didn't even
Hezbollah sends
exist.
rockets to Israeli civilians and kills many Israeli civilians who did nothing wrong.
They never initiated, though. It was not initiated. Like who?
But
like
how can
in
you
case.
justify that?
You know, no, it's not justifying. No, I'm not justifying anything. You know, but
sounds like you are.
But I mean, Lebanon is looking for peace. Even Palestinian, they. Even Hamas, they are asking for long ceasefire, right? If you remember, if you read that the Hamas leaders, they suggested to Israel to have 30 years of, ceasefire or peace.
It's the objective of Hamas, a stated objective to destroy Israel. The same thing with Iran.
I didn't hear that. Who said that?
The spokespeople for Hamas have said that, and Hamas went in and killed 1,200 Israeli civilians.
There are case by case. Yeah, you have October 7. But now how many days we have? 200 and more than 200 days now. We are getting to 8 months now, right?
Do you support the death penalty for apostasy?
That is a controversial issue. There is, even in this country, United States, this is a controversial issue, the capital punishment,
But this is for people who leave the religion. This isn't for people who commit crimes or commit murder.
Mm-hmm.
I think capital punishment for them.
That has been not only in Iran. Look,
but do you support it?
Just yes or no? Look, do you know that in the Quran, we don't have the term of sayf, which is sword. In the Quran, we don't have the word sword even one time. Although in the Bible, we have over 400 times talking about sword. If you don't listen to your father based on, Old Testament, you should be a stone, right?
But with respect, you're not answering my question. Do you support the death penalty for apostasy? Do you support it, yes or no?
Personally, no. So, Steve, looks like you have a mission here today, right?
I have no mission. I'm here as a journalist to hold people to account.
I hope you are not from one of those Islamophobia organizations.
Well, I don't think we are. We're not Islamophobic at all. We're just trying to hold people to account. Islam is on the rise in the United States, with some estimates suggesting it could soon become the second largest religion in the country. To find out more, I sat down with Ayan Hirsi Ali, a former Muslim who has spent decades warning about radical Islam. What is da'wah?
Da'wah means literally to call or to invite non-Muslims to Islam. It also means to Islamize its institutions. In short, it is a very ambitious project to bring the world under Muslim dominion.
Why does this matter to Americans?
It's very important for Americans to understand that it's a process of subversion. It's a subversion of the foundational principles of America. It's a subversion of the institutions of America. So in 2006, it was unthinkable for a man born and raised in Michigan to shout to a large group of a Muslim audience, death to America and death to Israel. And in 2024, this is happening, and that is a clear-cut result of years of da'wah.
Back in Dearborn, I spoke to an imam about his attempts to convert the local black population. Do you see your role as trying to convert local African Americans to Islam?
Our role is serving what we call the invitation or da'wah, the invitation to God. And obviously we're located in the African American community, but not exclusively African American. So our role is definitely to invite our neighbors and our community members to God.
So how successful has da'wah been here in Detroit?
Many African American Muslims regard Detroit as the Mecca of our Islam. The Islamic roots in Detroit go back very far indeed. And Malcolm X was here in Detroit.
Do you like Western civilization?
I would just say that what inspired me to embrace Islam was the autobiography of Malcolm X. And what Western countries and their imperialism meant for my people was being ripped away from our homeland, which was Africa, separated from our tribes and our languages and our religions, and then brought here and persecuted.
Do you like America?
As I say, I like North America. I like the homeland. This is my home, right? This is where I was born. If I die here, this is the earth that I'm from.
What about the country?
I know it intimately. The system that's been imposed here, absolutely not. No, I don't.
The United States?
They call it that. Yeah, they call it that.
When October 7th happened, this massacre of Jews last year, what was your reaction?
My reaction was, I heard about it in the media, and I don't really, I don't typically believe the official narratives that I hear in media.
Certainly those Jews who died, and I think there's been plenty of evidence that's been put out there, many, many countries around the world recognize this. Even if they criticize Israel for their reaction, they recognize that 1,200 around Jewish civilians were brutally murdered, raped, killed on October 7th. So those people didn't deserve to die. I mean, they weren't part of a war. They were just civilians living in a kibbutz, which is meant to be a peace-loving area.
How many of them were killed by the IDF?
Well, they were killed by Hamas.
That's what's alleged.
You think the IDF killed their own people?
I think absolutely. Some of the people were killed.
Why would they do that?
At minimum, friendly fire. At minimum, but there are those that are of the view that many of them were killed by their own side.
But Hamas were celebrating it. They were putting out videos of them killing these Jewish civilians and saying it was a great thing.
I haven't seen that. Yeah, I haven't seen that, and I don't follow it to that level of detail.
One of the things that we noticed online that you'd retweeted last year was, were every Muslim only to spit simultaneously at Israel, it would drown. That was on Twitter. That seems a bit extreme, or may seem a bit extreme to some. I mean, it suggests you want Israel to drown. What do you make of that?
That was a tweet of T.J. Winters, who's actually, he's in your country. He's in Cambridge. So I would say, ask him what he means by his tweet. What I understand it to mean is that we're all of the Muslims to show a little effort to assist our brothers and sisters in Palestine. What's taking place will be stopped.
For more than 100 years, Hamtramck, a city near Dearborn, was ruled by Polish mayors and was dominated by Polish immigrants. That is until 2021, when it became the first city in America to have a fully elected Muslim council and a Muslim mayor. To understand the city's recent transformation, I ventured to Hamtramck, initiating my inquiry at the local museum and conversing with curator Greg Kowalski.
Hamtramck has an interesting history of Polish mayors.
Yes.
Until very recently. So this represents how the town has changed.
It shows you that it's changed, but we always have to remember and remind people, everything changes. People, the most common thing we hear from people who don't live here mainly is that Hamtramck isn't what it used to be. To which we reply, go look in the mirror. 120 years ago, the German residents were sitting around the bars saying, all these Polish people are coming here and it's changing the community. And it's not what it used to be.
Where are the Germans now?
Where are the Germans now? They mainly, for the most part, not here.
You walk around Hamtramck and you see a lot of people from different cultures and communities. And for example, one of the things that you'll see is people wearing burqas.
Right.
In Europe, this is quite controversial.
Right.
France, for example, has banned these Islamic dresses because they say actually it's a bit sexist. Women shouldn't have to cover up in that way. What do you think about that?
I think that people should wear whatever they want to wear. That's their business. One day I was sitting there, and here comes a woman completely in the Muslim garb. All you see was her eyes, with two little girls, who probably from the size were maybe 7 years old, something like that. And they're completely, all I see is their eyes. But as they're walking by, I see one little girl is wearing blue flashing shoes. That's huge. That is an absolute break in culture.
So you don't think there's any issue in getting a 7-year-old to wear that kind of dress?
I don't think it's really a bad thing. But the point is that 7-year-old is going to be completely covered up now. In a couple of years, she'll have just her hair will be covered.
About 40 years ago was like pretty much pure Polish. You could get around just speaking Polish, Polish stores, Polish bank, Polish, like a couple Polish newspapers.
So what has happened in the last few years, the last couple of decades?
So the Polish people fled to the suburbs. They found different spots. Now we're going north right now. It used to be 3 different Polish churches in Hamtramck area, just only 1 left now.
Do you think that the people who have moved here from some of the Arabic countries are integrating well into American life? Are they becoming Americans?
They are, but they want to keep a lot of their customs and their traditions. Like they started building those mosques around Hamtramck. The European people, like European born people, they didn't like that because they have the call for prayers twice a day and all kinds of different, like they brought a lot of their culture and lots of their customs back here.
Now, you were mayor until 2021. You were the last Polish mayor of this town, going back how many years?
100 years.
More recently, obviously the mayor who's since come into power, he's a Muslim, and the whole council have become Muslim, the first place in America to have a full Muslim council. How has that impacted the town? How has that impacted local politics?
Local politics are, to some degree, they encompass kind of international issues and questions like you raise. But for the most part, local officials deal with kind of bread and butter, down to earth, local kinds of issues,
But certainly there have been very specific Muslim-related controversies, if I could put it like that. I mean, obviously we've been speaking to locals here, and they've told us about things like the call to prayer that happens, banning the LGBT flags on government buildings. We know there's a lawsuit going on around that now. And I know that at the time you made some fairly strong comments
yes.
about this.
I feel very strongly about it.
Do you think LGBT people here in Hamtramck feel threatened by this law?
Yes, I have it I've been told by many people that they don't feel safe here anymore. I've been told by people who used to come and shop here, go to the businesses here, that they don't feel safe coming here.
So are you concerned about having increasing immigration from some of these conservative Muslim countries like Yemen?
I'm really not very concerned about that. Any immigrant community evolves and changes as it experiences life here. Just yesterday, and I see this fairly often, not so often that I don't notice it still when I see it, but a young Muslim couple, probably in their early 20s, holding hands walking down the street.
Interestingly, there's a national political debate going on in Hamtramck. We've spoken to locals about that. And some people we've spoken to, Muslims, have said, actually, we quite like Trump. So, what do you think about that dynamic?
I think they're crazy, honestly, So, let them, they'll shoot themselves in their own foot. Did they forget about the Muslim ban? Have they forgotten about everything?
So this is your institute?
Yes. Yes, we are a 501c3, and we've been here for 21 years. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary.
Wow. But certainly in Dearborn recently we saw a rally where people were unfortunately shouting "Death to America," and they were chanting it. This went viral across the United States.
Of course.
What do you make of that chant?
I think that 70% of them were not protesters, but rather paid people. I really believe that. We saw that here with the LGBTQ issue. So every year, for years, we put up a flag during Pride Month. And the mayor that you interviewed came by in the morning, was walking and found our flag in the garbage. And it was 4 young boys, possibly Muslim. We didn't put it back up because we didn't want to aggravate anybody. I cannot tell you how many people were upset with me because I did not put him in jail. And if I had done that, he would have been angry and he would have been one yelling, "Down with America."
The local council and mayor have been accused of sharing and liking and endorsing posts on Facebook and social media endorsing anti-Semitism. I mean, some of the posts I've got here, calling black people animals, posting pictures of Jews as monkeys.
Well, that's another story on the black side.
And this
we
is one
have that
example
experience.
of one of the councillors sharing,
Yeah.
So there are some pretty nasty stuff.
Pretty nasty and very ignorant and not well informed.
Does that not worry you as that your local politicians are sharing this stuff?
Absolutely. And also about the black population, which is a pet peeve of mine. And they have strategically been displaced in this in this city. And an example that I'll give you, he wasn't here today, but normally he would be here. His name is Brian. He is a credentialed classical composer. So he came to me out of this group and he said, Virginia, can I talk to you because I would love to do music therapy in the schools. I said, no problem, just call the principal. We deal all the time and we don't have any problem. And we were told no, because the Muslim parents don't want art and music for their children. You have Ukrainians, Bosnians, Macedonians. You have all these other children. That's discrimination. It's not about music therapy. It's about who can't have music therapy.
Hamtramck's one of the cities where everybody gets along. Like in my neighborhood, we've got Polish, we've got Ukrainian, we've got African American, we have Bengali, we have Yemeni. Everybody just gets along and they look out for each other.
There certainly has been some controversies though, particularly with laws passed around banning LGBT flags in council buildings and also allowing for animal sacrifice in people's backyards.
When you look at it, the sacrifice of animals, that's nothing new. That went along with immigrant groups. I remember when I was a kid, people would kill their chicken or their duck in their backyard. The reason that people were concerned is because of the fact of health code and things like that, especially dispensing with the different parts of the animal. People were concerned about that. Like I know the former mayor, Karen Majewski, she had a store and there was a goat carcass one time in her dumpster. And she was like, oh, that's not really a good idea.
Two flags seem to dominate the streets of Hamtramck: Palestine and Pride. I visited a local tattoo parlour flying both symbols.
Behind you, not only is there like a Palestine thing, but also if you move it slightly, we've got this, Hamtramck Pride. Do you think that there's a bit of a conflict between this poster and this poster?
Not at all, not at all. And I think that, I remember when everything was going on, I had a lot of strong feelings about it. Because in Hamtramck, we have, again, all different kinds of people living next to each other, living on top of each other. And Hamtramck is also like a super queer city. And something I've noticed, and I try to talk to people about this, like outside of the neighborhood, is that even though like the city council is doing all of this like weird stuff about like politics and what flag we can fly, as far as like living in the neighborhood, everybody lives in harmony.
In Dearborn, just down the road, recently there was a rally which went viral across America because you had people shouting, "Death to America." What do you think about that chant?
I think it's awesome. I mean, I'm black. You know what I mean? It's like, I come from a people who were forced to be here, I think a lot of Arabs were not brought here through the slave trade, but were forced to be here because America bombed their countries to smithereens. Because what is America, right? It's like the center for genocide. America's like the world police. So I think that chanting "Death to America" is, I don't know, maybe one of the least problematic things somebody can say.
To many Americans, saying "Death to America" is like, we've just given you this great opportunity, you've moved here for a reason, so it could be quite offensive from that perspective.
For sure, which is understandable, but there's a lot of things that can be offensive if you don't really have the understanding, or like an analysis of it. I got Kim Jong-un tattooed on my chest. So when it comes to like my idea of the United States, of imperialism, of capitalism.
Why have you got Kim Jong-un now? You've got to explain that.
I think he's awesome, man. So I learned a lot about the Vietnam War and the Korean War. And at the base level, it was wars for these people's self-determination. Vietnam and Korea, they're like, we're gonna try this socialist thing out. And then the West is like, no, you're not. Here are some bombs.
Have you been there, by the way?
No, not yet. But I have seen a couple documentaries on black people specifically who went to North Korea.
Do you have what kind of tattoos? Have you got any other cool tattoos you can show us?
I got Lenin.
You got Lenin, yep.
I got Marx. Got a little hammer and sickle. I did that when I was a teenager.
So you've got a pride flag outside the store. Yeah. Can you tell me a bit about why you got it there, what's been happening in the last few years?
I've always been supportive of the LGBTQ plus community because I have 2 kids that are transgender, and Hamtramck recently banned any flags, so not just the pride flag.
And what happened to the flag when you flew it originally?
A couple of times it was torn down by some rowdy kids that were being obnoxious. So we just kept putting it up higher and higher. Now it's on the top.
How have you responded? How has Hamtramck responded to the war?
I think the day after, it was either October 7th on that same day or the day after, there was a parade right down Joseph Campo, and they were Hamas. They were, flying Hamas flags, and we were like, okay.
That's not great, right? I mean, Hamas just killed 1,000 people.
I think that I don't have enough knowledge and information to make a solid point of view when it comes to that history. It's a really long history, and I don't know every detail. But I do understand that for Palestinian people to feel liberated, how else can they liberate themselves without having some kind of force?
But the people in this case who died on October 7th or were murdered, these were innocent civilians, women, children, many of whom were raped, murdered in kibbutzes, which are like peace-loving areas who are trying to get on with the local population. So there's no justification for that, right? I mean, that's
I
terrible.
don't think there's a justification for that, but I do understand why Palestinian people have their own struggle too.
What do local Muslims think about the LGBT issue? To gain their perspective, I visited a nearby restaurant.
Hamtramck is mostly dominated with Muslims, so it is a problem when LGBT, they try to put flags near our businesses, near our houses. We're not telling them don't do it, we're just telling them don't do it to us.
What do you think of Joe Biden?
Joe Biden? I'm not a fan. He's done the guy can barely speak, so he gives out way too much money to things that are not benefiting it. It just causes war, crime. So Donald Trump, don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of any of our political figures. But he helped America financially more than Biden did.
I've been working in Detroit for almost 20 years. So I never been working any other city.
Recently, just down the road in Dearborn, we saw a protest to do with the Gaza-Israel war.
Yeah.
They were chanting death to America.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Again, when it's come to Gaza, I support Gaza. I support Palestinian. Why? Because I believe it's a genocide. When you say death to America, it means death to us. Why? Is it not? We live here. What do you mean by death America, death Canada? We love these countries, that's why we left our own country.
Some Republicans have embraced Hamtramck's Muslim Council over their fight with LGBT activists, including Michael Flynn, a former national security advisor to President Trump. However, Ayan believes this unusual alliance is a mistake.
Superficially, Republicans and conservatives who are interested in protecting the family, protecting the rights of women, rights of the unborn child, protecting religious freedom, at times will think that they have something in common with those Muslims who are advancing da'wah. But what the conservatives and the Republicans fail to do is to see that the agenda that the activist Muslim is pushing is anti-Christian, it is anti-American, it is anti-Republican, and it is anti-church, of course.
In 2016, Donald Trump won the state of Michigan by about 10,000 votes. How important is the Muslim vote in American elections?
Oh, very, very crucial. If elections get that close, I think Biden and his administration is toast, because the Muslim societies, the Muslim communities have been brainwashed into thinking that what's happening in the Middle East is more important to them than what's happening locally.
Hamtramck is known as America in 2 square miles. However, since the diverse city has become majority Muslim, the council has rapidly implemented a socially conservative Islamic philosophy on its residents. While local liberals are angry with some of the reforms, they perhaps naively still support diversity and increasing immigration from the Middle East to America. On the other hand, Republicans, perhaps equally naively, have supported the Muslim Council in their so-called anti-woke crusade. As Islam continues to grow in America, Hamtramck may represent a case study for cities across the country.